Thank you very much for inviting me to the Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education. And I was requested by Vishaka Devidasi to some memories on Śrīla Prabhupāda. So this is a very great event in the history of our world. Since Krishna left the planet 5,000 years ago, Kali Yuga came in the next day or the same day. And since then, things have really deteriorated. And then here we have, first of all, Lord Chaitanya, who is Radha Krishna, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayanya. And now, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur predicted, a great Senapati, analogous to a great commander-in-chief, Śrīla Prabhupada was crossing the ocean and waging a kind of war against Kali. Prabhupada said one time, I believe it was New York, but he said, I have come here as an aggressor. So yes, we were young boys and girls, and we were searching after a change. I suppose you could call it a revolution. We were very rebellious young people. We were very disillusioned with the American dream. Having a nice house, working at the office all day, buying a new car every 2 years, going on vacations. There was no happiness there, no satisfaction. And even the famous Rolling Stones, who were friends with the Beatles, they made a song in the early 60s, I can't get no satisfaction. So frustrated young people. So I saw devotees a few times in Woodstock Festival in upstate New York, and I got prasadam from them at other music festivals. There were many, many music festivals in those days and protest songs against the war in Vietnam and the inequity amongst the blacks and whites in America. So finally, I met devotees in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. It was Mahatma Das, the Mahatma Das. He was the temple president. He'd come up from California. And I very quickly joined. So then after a few months, that was February 1972. So by June, the beginning of June, Śrīla Prabhupada was just traveling around the world, like constantly going. He'd fly into LA, then he'd go next up to Seattle, then he'd fly over to New York, then he would fly over to England, then he would go to Africa. He was just covering so many countries. He was just empowered, just constantly going. Few hours sleeping, translating his great work, his miraculous work, Srimad Bhagavatam, for the benefit of the entire world. So we all loaded up in a van, a Chevy van, and drove down to Portland, Oregon. Prabhupada had come to Portland, Oregon, and there were hundreds of devotees who had descended on this little house they were renting. This was 1972. We didn't own a whole lot of buildings. The movement was just starting to take off like a rocket. It was actually like a big explosion. Hayagriva, he wrote a book called The Hare Krishna Explosion, and a famous professor from UCLA Berkeley in there, San Francisco, he wrote a book, Hare Krishna and the Counterculture. His name was Stilson Judah, and he became a more or less accepted Prabhupada as his Shiksha Guru. He was one of the top theologians in America, but he was so impacted by Śrīla Prabhupāda. Every time Prabhupada came to Los Angeles, we would go for morning walks with Śrīla Prabhupāda on Venice Beach. It was a beach on the Pacific Ocean in Los Angeles. And still Sanjuda would show up. He would fly down from Berkeley and just following Śrīla Prabhupāda and discussing with Śrīla Prabhupāda. And very fond of Śrīla Prabhupāda. And of course, Śrīla Prabhupada showered him with his mercy. So in Portland, back to Portland, Prabhupada came into the airport and he was very, very serious, very grave in those days, because as young people, we were quite passionate and kind of what we call spaced out. We didn't really know the depths of this profound movement that we'd gotten ourselves into. We had joined because when you chant Hare Krishna, you get high, you feel good, you feel happy, you get high forever was the slogan. And gradually, we were imbibing this great and ancient spiritual philosophy of the Jiva and his relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. And so Prabhupada was very grave at the airport, and he's sitting there, and they offered him a big plate of Mahaprasad, and he just took a couple of pieces of mango, and he popped them in his mouth like this. And he said, "You are distributing the holy name 6-7 hours a day on the streets chanting. But my books, my Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-Gītā, these are Brihat Madanga. They're the greater Madanga. So I want you to distribute my big books. People will take these books and put them in their libraries because they're not so easily to be disposed as a magazine." So we were always thinking, how are we gonna, in the street, we're gonna distribute a book about God? I mean, God is not that popular in the West. Not very popular at all. Science was the way of knowing things. So when Prabhupada kept emphasizing this, we were young people and we really, really were completely absorbed in pleasing Śrīla Prabhupada. So impacted by him. He was so transcendental and grave and also very personal. And you could see this prema, pramanjana bhakti, you could see it in his glow, in his aura. So we started thinking how to distribute Prabhupada's books. And I took that to heart. I actually was a drummer on Harinam. I could play the Madanga, but Prabhupada kept emphasizing distribute his books. So I started trying to distribute his books in large quantities. So he would take us for morning walks in the park. They have these parks where you can go for morning walks. And Śrīla Prabhupada would always bring up these scientists and these philosophers. And so we were walking along, and Prabhupada was saying, they're just like frogs. These scientists are like frogs. They're stuck in a well, and they're thinking, oh, the universe is like this. There was a chunk, and then the chunk exploded, and we got all these wonderful planets. And there's no life on other planets, just our. It was like this. Prabhupada would discuss with us how nonsense these scientists were. So as he was walking, he saw a frog sitting on a rock in the pond. And he looked at us and he said, "So, what is Mr. Frog saying today?" And then we had to pipe up and say, "Prabhupada, they say that life comes from chemicals." And Prabhupada said, "Rascals, show it to me. Show me how life, I give you a dead body right now. It just died a second. Make it back to life. We have all the ingredients, all the chemicals. You put it back." Like that. Prabhupada was very, very aggressive in his critique against these scientists who basically ruled the educational world, the academic world. So that was my one experience on the morning walk with Śrīla Prabhupada in June of 1972. And so we were very excited. Some of us were only 15 or 16 years old. a couple of girls, they were French girls from Montreal, and they had hitchhiked all the way across the country, across the continent to see Prabhupada in Portland, Oregon. It's like 6,000 kilometers. They hitchhiked, 15 years old, just to see Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was giving a morning class. Every morning, we were on the first canto about Maharaj Yudhisthira, and what kind of a great king he was. So Prabhupada would speak how Maharaj Yudhisthira was a Raj Rishi, and by his yagyas and his great devotion to Krishna, there was never any squalor, there was never any poverty. Everything was working in harmony. Mother Nature, the mountains, the oceans, everything was working wonderfully, and everyone was fully satisfied economically and nutritionally, mentally. Everything was working wonderfully. He said, now we have cowards. They're not kshatriyas, they're cowards, he said. So we were going on Harinam Sankirtan in the streets, and the police arrested devotees in Portland. For some reason, I didn't go that day. And they had to sleep in the jail at night. And next morning, the police brought them in front of the judge, and the police charged them with disturbing the peace. They were clanging and beating on drums, and they were disturbing the peace. And, the devotees were dressed in saris and dhotis, young people, young Americans, and here were being arrested for preaching. So when the judge saw this, he told the police, why are you wasting taxpayers' money? Why are you wasting my time? If you bring these people back again, I'll charge you with disturbing. And he threw the case out. And Prabhupada was sitting there and in the Bhagavatam class, and there's only maybe 60 devotees. All the other ones had been arrested. And he said, where are all my devotees? Where are the devotees? Oh, Prabhupada, they had to sleep over in the jail. And Prabhupada said, rascals. He said, these are young religious boys and girls. What wrong are they doing? Simply trying to spread the gospel of Lord Chaitanya. What wrong are they doing? Rascal government. Anyway, the devotees were freed up and came back to the temple. And in those days, we used to eat a lot of halava. And so the devotee who was choosing the names, if you had a name like Brian starting with B, then Prabhupada would give you a name like Balaram Das. Or if your name was Roger, he would give you a name starting with R, like Ramadas or Ramachandra Das, something like that. So my name started with C for like Ka, Christopher, Chris. But that can also be a female name. Chris can be a male or female. So we were like little monkeys running around trying to get more halava and rasgulla. We had just joined and our senses were quite passionate. So Pradyumna was choosing the names. He was known as a Sanskrit scholar. And so I'm up for initiation. I'm sitting under Śrīla Prabhupāda's lotus feet. And Pradyumna gives him the paper with my new name on it. And Prabhupada looked at it, and he looked at Pradyumna, and he said, what is this nonsense? It was just like a hurricane hitting Pradyumna. He had given me a girl's name. And Śrīla Prabhupada was so annoyed because his servants were all a little spaced out. So he said, never mind, I will choose his name. So everything was very serious for Śrīla Prabhupada. What to speak of initiation? He's in a very alien country. No one knows who is Krishna. Very few people know what is Hinduism or Varnashram Dharma or Sanatana Dharma. No one knows. It's just completely alien. The young guys would go out in the street wearing pink sheets, as they can see, it's pink sheet, and a pink shirt, a t-shirt, and our heads are shaved, and we're worshiping a plant with a skirt on it. It's like they think we're aliens. So um, this was very new in America. Only the religious scholars understood what is Hinduism and so on. So anyway, Prabhupada looked up in this, up like this, and he's thinking, and he looks at me. He said, "Your name is Kripanidhi Das, Ocean of Mercy," and everyone, Haribo. So that was my initiation. Well, quite a few devotees got initiated. Wherever Prabhupada went, beginning in the 70s, even 69, there would be tons of devotees getting initiated. And you have to understand, Srila Prabhupada was very liberal. There was no Bhakti Shastri testing. It just you had to be recommended by the temple president. If you had been chanting and following the principles for 6 months, probably yes. I remember one hippie put his hand up in San Francisco. Prabhupada, can you initiate me? Prabhupada said, what are the four principles? And he said the four principles. He said, how many rounds? 16. He said, and who is God? And the person, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Yes, I'll initiate you. That was it. That was how it was. Prabhupada was just initiating and initiating. Thousands and thousands of young people. Most of us were what we call refugees from middle class America, refugees from the suburbs. We weren't actually living in poverty or anything like that. You know, we had university education available. I was in university, but I left it. We had all the money we required and food, nice good food, nice homes, and yet we were rejecting this all. Prabhupada said, yeah, the hippies are rejecting. Their forefathers have worked so hard and built America, and now the young people are rejecting and becoming hippies, wandering around like Maharaj Puranjana, wandering around the universe. So we were definitely seeking really hard. Many of us were going to, as we know, going to India, to the Himalayas, looking for our identity and so on. So this is the environment that Srila Prabhupada Krishna had brought Prabhupada into in America at that time. And so many devotees, Prabhupada was initiating very quickly, very quickly. You didn't have to really know the entire Bhagavad-Gītā, Sanskrit, Bhagavatam, and so on. Had to be sincere. Prabhupada would see if we were sincere or not. So that was my first time, and then we started distributing his big books in parking lots and public places, and then eventually in the airports of America, like Los Angeles, Las Vegas, we were distributing to the public, because in America, you're allowed to distribute religion in anywhere public go, bus stops, bus stations, anywhere that's public, you're allowed to go and distribute books. So we would get the lawyers to open up these places. And suddenly we're distributing millions of Prabhupada's books, literally millions. And suddenly Prabhupada had all this money. All this Lakshmi was coming. We were brahmacharis, brahmacharinis. We'd feel bad if we kept $1 to get a banana or something if we were hungry. Everything was going. Prabhupada said, book distribution, every money will follow. Just preaching, money will follow. And the most important aspect of preaching is book distribution. So this book distribution business took off, and Los Angeles became the center, the international center at that time. So Srila Prabhupada, every time he visited Los Angeles, we would drive down, or wherever we were traveling in North American continent, we would drive to LA to see Prabhupada. And so Prabhupada would just look at all these young people. I mean, really young, just kids. And he said, these boys and girls, my spiritual master will bless you. You're distributing millions of my books. My spiritual master will bless you. Bhakti Siddhanta will take you back home, back to Godhead. He was so grateful. I don't think he expected the magnitude of what happened in the West in those days. Incredible magnitude, the Hare Krishna movement exploding all across the Western Hemisphere. And then Srila Prabhupada wouldn't rest. He would go to Africa. He always wanted to go to Russia. So he ended up going to Russia and recruiting one boy within 5 days, one devotee who started it up, and it expanded and proliferated throughout Russia. So this was Srila Prabhupada's vision all over the world. Just keep going, keep spreading the mission of Lord Chaitanya, South America. So this was a very exciting and powerful time. Prabhupada's presence on the planet. He's a Shakta Avesh. Avesh means Lord Chaitanya's would appear in his Avesh Shakti. That means that he would enter into someone's body, like Nakula Brahmachari in Chaitanya Charitamrita or Nishringananda Brahmachari. And he would empower them, and whoever they met would be endowed with love of God. So like this, Prabhupada was just empowering us. We could feel so empowered. We would do anything for Prabhupada. If Prabhupada said, jump out of a plane, no problem. It's like Yamuna, she was on a train, and Prabhupada said, I want some nice boiled rice. So Yamuna went to the conductor, I need your kitchen. Oh, no, you're public. You're not allowed. Yamuna told the conductor, okay, I'm jumping off the train. And she opened the door to jump off the train. And then the conductor, no, wait. And he gave her the kitchen. And Papa was sitting there, and this beautiful, fluffy rice was brought to him. And he says, Yamuna, you're my Lakshmi, goddess of fortune. And he was eating the rice. So like that, dedication. We know that Yamuna and Shyamasundar and Malati and Gurudas, they went to London, where the Beatles were singing about peace and love. Those were the hippie days. And they were just insanely popular. Everyone loved the Beatles, even the old people. Everyone loved them. And their theme was peace and love on the world. Why are you always fighting wars? What's going on? They couldn't understand it. And they got interested in Hinduism, or Sanatana Dharma and yoga, and they went to the Himalayas. But that person they were with, he turned out to be a charlatan, Maharishi Yogi. So they were a little disappointed. Anyway, George Harrison was a Beatle, and him and John Lennon, they would go on a boat in the Mediterranean Ocean. They would just chant on their ukuleles and banjos for hours and hours, Hare Krishna, just chanting and feeling the bliss of the holy name. So then Yamuna and Shyamasundar met up with George Harrison, and he became a disciple of Śrīla Prabhupāda. Surrendered completely to Śrīla Prabhupāda and wrote many, many songs from the Bhagavad-Gītā, Prabhupada's teachings, reincarnation, karma, who is, the great devotee of the Lord, Krishna, all these different songs, My Sweet Lord, Hare Krishna. It was an incredible time, very explosive time, very positive time. And the Hare Krishna movement was firmly established. Prabhupada, when I saw him last time I saw him in the West was 1976. And so he was sitting on the Vyasa, and he had this big smile on his face, because he realized that as much as they were trying to destroy the Hare Krishna movement in America, the media, the Christians, the Jews, they hated. So many young people were joining what they considered Hinduism. The media were the voices of the atheists, the scientists, and so on. So it was always Hare Krishna is bad. And newspapers would say that. Prabhupada said, yes, let them chant Hare Krishna. He didn't care. And because there is so much objection, young people who were radically, disillusioned with the whole American so-called dream, that they would come to check us out. So we're getting more people. The more they said you're bad, the more people will come. So, like I said, in Los Angeles, Prabhupada was on the Vyasa San, and at the end of his class, he was just smiling. Or I suppose it was in the middle of his Bhagavatam class. And he said he was going to tell us a little joke. So he said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that intelligence is more powerful than physical strength. Intelligence is the most powerful tool you can have. And then he told the story of a lion who made a deal with all the forest animals that instead of him chasing them and eating them, they would sacrifice one creature every month. So the rabbit's turn came up, and the lion came, and the rabbit was standing next to an empty well. And the lion said, okay, time for me to eat you. And the rabbit said, oh, no, I belong to the other lion. And you're the wrong lion. And the lion said, what? Who is that? Where is he? And the rabbit said, oh, just roar at him. He's down in the well. Just roar. So the lion looked in the well and he roared. There was some water at the bottom and he saw his reflection and he roared. Roar! And the echo came back. And so the lion, he jumped in the well and Prabhupada said, all finished. He went like this. So he's saying that intelligence is the greatest power. He said the Ajagara Vriti, that the python waits for the frog or mouse to make a hole in the ground, and then he eats the mouse and occupies the hole. He said, this is capitalism. He said, intelligence, lazy intelligence. So those are some memories I have with Śrīla Prabhupada. Of course, when Śrīla Prabhupada was very ill, I went to Vrindavan. I was sent there by Temple President. I was a brahmachari for 10 or 11 years as brahmachari, 10 years. So 1977, I went to Vrindavan and Śrīla Prabhupada was lying on the bed. We would chant for him all day. And his godbrothers would come and visit him. So on November 14th, I think I was there for a week at least. The Kaviraj came in at 1 p.m. when we were having prasadam, lunch prasadam in what used to be the Gurukula ground floor. And he said, Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada, he will leave the planet just after 7 o'clock. So just by feeling his pulse, he could tell Prabhupada's pulse. So then we all rushed there and we were all chanting Śrīla Prabhupada from 1:30 all the way through. And Prabhupada was just very quiet and he was just listening to the chanting. And then around 7:10, 7:15, I can't remember, Śrīla Prabhupada opens his mouth and he said, Hare Krishna. And he didn't finish the na. And he went to Krishna. Wherever Krishna was having his pastimes, in one of these universes, he went there to engage in pastime, Nitya Lila Pravishtom. He entered into the eternal Lila of Radha and Krishna. So then there was a huge emotional outburst. People were rolling on the ground. People were in hysteria. This was like sannyasis, not just, little brahmacharis, but all of sannyasis. They're all overwhelmed, and some of them were screaming Prabhupada's name. And the GBC for my area, his name was Jagadish. He was a very senior devotee. And we had to go outside. Jadvaita told us everyone leave. They had to dress Srila Prabhupada's body and sit him up on the Vyasasan in Krishna Balaram temple. So outside, they had trying to organize who is going to dig the samadhi of Prabhupada. It's 10 by 10 by 12. And Jagadish was saying, who's going to do it? We need volunteers to dig this hole. And immediately my hand shot up. I said, I'll do it. I want the mercy. So Jagadish, okay. He got me, and then one brahmachari, one of my friends from Seattle, Washington, he also agreed. Gopal Krishna Maharaj had actually instructed him to go to Loy Bazaar in Vrindavan and buy lots of flowers for the ceremony next day. So basically, I was by myself most of the time, and it was very sandy, so there was no heavy machinery in Vrindavan. It was a village with some rickshaws. There was no asphalt, paved roads, nothing. It was very nice, very idyllic. So anyway, they gave me a shovel. And around 7:30, I started digging Prabhupada's Samadhi. And I dug and dug and dug. And 6 o'clock in the morning, it was done. And then I hadn't slept. My friend Abhinanda, he came after getting flowers and things, and he lasted until about 4 o'clock in the morning. Then he was tired. So I ended up having to finish it. And it was 10 feet by 10 feet. And it was little, maybe 12 feet high. And I'm so grateful that Śrīla Prabhupada allowed me to dig his samadhi. Prabhupada told us when you go to Rupa Goswami's samadhi, if you're a little more advanced, you can feel all the Goswamis there. All the Goswamis. So in this way, Śrīla Prabhupada's samadhi in Vrindavan, when you go there, you can feel his spiritual potency there. If you try to be a little advanced when you go to Vrindavan, focus on the holy name, and you can feel the potency of this Guru Parampara, the potency of these great acharyas, Shakti Vishavatar, Śrīla Prabhupada. So that was so much mercy I got. I was an unknown person, unknown brahmachari. I was just known that I was a book distributor all over America, Canada, and like that, mainly book distributor and Harinam Kirtan during the weekend. That was my service. So should I stop here? It's been a little bit
Thank you,
past.
Prabhu. We can listen to you all day. But I really, really appreciate your time. And we would like to invite you again, if that is okay, sometime. Thank you so much for giving
My
us Srila
my
Prabhupada's
honor.
nectar. You indeed are very fortunate to dig Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, indeed. So it seemed like we were all there. You carried us through the whole event. Thank you so much. So we all miss Srila Prabhupada, but please bestow that mercy that you received from Srila Prabhupada on all of us, Prabhu. We would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
for
for
coming.
inviting me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And if we could invite you again, if we could bother you again sometime in the future.
I'd be more than happy. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, and
Thank you, Prabhu.
we'll see you again.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare
Hare. So that would conclude our session today. And we will meet again next week. And just a friendly reminder again regarding the course that is starting in June. Please try to join that course. It is going to be very beneficial for all of us. So thank you for joining today. Thank you for your time. Vancha kalpatrupishya kipasindubhyaivcha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Please forgive me for all my mistakes. I seek your blessings. Thank you. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare,
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
But as we
Thank you
don't
so
have next class is
Hare
cancelled
Krishna.
because Panchajanya Nath Prabhuji is not well. So it is cancelled, okay? Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. He joined Śrīla Prabhupāda when at the age of 21. So young, so young. He dedicated his life to Śrīla Prabhupāda. And ever since then, he was the biggest book distributor. He was also president of Delhi Temple at one time. And then he was called to come and join Śrīla Prabhupāda in Vrindavan. And he was very fortunate to spend Śrīla Prabhupāda's final Leela in Vrindavan.